Good afternoon. It's showtime and my teleprompter is broken and I don't know how I'm going to do. But I want to thank Chairman Reynolds and the members of the Civil Rights Commission for inviting me, and the remarks that I intend to present may be a little bit different from what we've been discussing, but I think they're important. So, to my notes. It's obvious by now that the civil rights tools that we've used for the past 40 years have not worked very effectively. And there have been some successes. Many of them benefited the middle class. I mean, programs like affirmative action, they have helped build a large black middle class, people that are affluent. It's also helped the Hispanic community. It's helped white women. And if you were to look at the history of affirmative action, you would see that the program, by 1970, there were something like 5 groups that were covered by race-based affirmative action. And these are groups that did not have the history of African Americans. The part of the community that I come from, I was born in the rural South. I'm one of 12. We all dropped out of school. I have a GED. Everything I've accomplished has been under those adverse circumstances, and I don't have time to explain to you why I got out. I was the only one of the 12. I'm a firm believer that in purpose, in God, and I think doors were opened up for me, and I've had the opportunity to see life at the bottom, to see it now as a person, that's strongly ensconced in the middle class, and to have taught at Princeton. I was tenured there. I see how the system works. I see how it doesn't work, and I see the deception. There's deception everywhere, and that's unfortunate. And it's true that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think that we do that too many times. And even here today, we're talking about civil rights. And civil rights in the 21st century has to be about more than race and race-based remedies. It has to address discrimination, but also be geared towards solutions that will impact the masses of poor whites, blacks, legal Hispanics, members of other groups that are trying to get a stronghold on the American dream. And it can't be just about the black underclass. The people you were talking about were people in my family. And they have their problems, and there are things that I believe that we can do to reach people that are in that unfortunate situation. But whatever remedies and approaches we take going forward has to be geared around helping disadvantaged people, not one particular group. Civil rights in the 21st century has to encourage people to see themselves not as outsiders, but as Americans, and they need to have that can-do spirit that many of our ancestors have had. And I think about myself that I come from, from a social class, part of the country where as soon as you open your mouth and people hear the Southern accent, they immediately begin to make assumptions about your IQ. And I've always had a I'll show you attitude, and so people underestimate me all the time, and so, okay, I'm just part of my, okay, underestimate me. But I've seen that as a challenge that I welcome the challenge. Civil rights is about black people. Civil rights is about white people, brown people, yellow people, red people coming together to tackle the perennial problems that have plagued this nation. Problems that have not been amenable to any of the existing programs and experiments. Progress towards common goals will require new approaches, and it will require a strategy that combines self-help with private initiatives and carefully targeted and tested governmental programs that are geared towards the most disadvantaged Americans. Again, these are poor whites, these are blacks, these are legal Hispanics, these are members of other minorities that are in this country that have fallen behind. It will also require strong immigration enforcement. It will also require strong immigration enforcement. It will also require strong immigration enforcement. I'm sorry, the teleprompter was stuck. It will require an investment in native-born human capital in the form of vocational educational opportunities for the non-college bound. Not everyone belongs in college. When I started college, I got a GED in '75. I started a community college. I did well at that community college. That got me into the next college. That got me into the next college. Not everyone belongs in college, and not everyone wants to go to college, and it has nothing to do with their IQ. We need to have strong vocational programs in the high schools, and we need in the communities where all of these people are unemployed, that are older, they're in their 40s and their 50s. We need programs to retrain these Americans to do jobs that Americans will do. Our country has changed in dramatic ways. Consider that by the year 2042, it is estimated that America will be a majority-minority nation with non-Hispanic whites and blacks constituting decreasing percentages of the population. Hispanics and Asians will be the fastest growing groups. Some of these newcomers are not in the country illegally. Some of them are in the country illegally. Some of them are not in the country legally. Many of them are poor. They compete directly with poor whites, blacks, Hispanics, and legal immigrants for a dwindling supply of low-wage, low-skilled jobs. Civil rights in the 21st century cannot turn a blind eye to the rule of law. Many of the newcomers come from nations where there is no rule of law. And what kind of example do we set as Americans when we don't enforce our own laws? We have an opportunity to say that we are different. You know, this is a nation of laws. We're not doing that. We're setting a poor example, and we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. Civil rights also has to be about the white community and the white community not feeling aggrieved. And while we struggle with the continuing problems of blacks, white people struggle with the racial dialogue in America. And I can imagine that people watching C-SPAN or wherever they're going to see this will turn off the TV, and it's like same old, same old. It's like we never get beyond this. Last year, I received an email from a white woman who identified herself as Jewish. I would call her, you know what I'm trying to say, Hadassah. In a plea to me to make an effort to bridge racial differences by serving as a bridge builder, she wrote, "I myself never harbored any racialist or racist attitudes until the advent of the playing of the race card, affirmative action, reverse discrimination against white people, and the myriad attempts by liberals in government to make life unbearable for those of the white race, such as forced integration, forced busing, and the ruination of white neighborhoods. I have met many Asian people who share these exact concerns as well. Because of the many efforts by professional race mongers, such as the Southern Poverty Law Center and the NAACP and the like, hatred against your people has heightened to a level I've never before seen in my half-century of life on this earth. It terrifies me, and I wonder if perhaps fair-minded persons like yourself could help ameliorate this in some way. It seems you have indeed been trying. I tried to do the same within the Jewish community to make Jewish liberals understand that many of their actions only harm the Jewish people in the eyes of the Gentiles. Around the time I received Hadassah's email, there was a video on YouTube, whites are people too. And one may ask, well, why are white people stating the obvious? This is ridiculous. I say it doesn't serve our needs to focus on these issues as racial issues, that we're all Americans. We have to have an American solution. So civil rights in the 21st century has to be about Americanism. The problems that we're addressing are problems of social class. Thank you.